Welcome to Looking to Making a Difference with Gail. I'm really excited about tonight's show. And the reason? Well, we have a show that I think is going to help so many different viewers. You know, the leaves are turning, and it makes me think of the days I was a teacher. And I know that so many kids are back into their classrooms, and yet I've been hearing from some of the parents, some educators, they still want to know a lot more about what they can do about bullying. We're talking about not only the kids who are bullied, the kids who are doing the bullying, but also the kids who are watching this. We want to make our educational system the best that it can be. So in the second half of the show, I am so fortunate in having legislator Sarah Anker of the 6th District, who's going to talk about cyberbullying and yik yak, and we're going to get all the lowdown on that. Dean Dobbins is going to share his amazing book called Stop Bullying Today, and it's a story about himself. But in it, he very cleverly uses symbolism to talk about all the different aspects of bullying. And I'll tell you, I thought that I knew quite a bit about the topic, having been an educator, but I still learned so much more. And that's one of the purposes of the show. In addition to that, it's to get the information out to help people, to know you're not alone and that there's help on the way. I am delighted to have Kelsey Coan, who comes in all the way from New Jersey. Now, Kelsey is very special, 17-year-old, who is going to share her experiences about bullying, and she's also going to share her original song that she wrote. She's going to, in addition, talk about children with special needs. And I love that, to be able to hear from a teenager and get the inside story. But for the first segment, Kelsey will be back later. She's going to talk all about our veterans with a special song for her grandfather, who is a winner of the Bronze Medal, actually in Vietnam. But we also have a very wonderful guest today, and that is County Executive Steve Bellone. Welcome to Looking to Making a Difference, and I am so happy that you are here because I know that this is a very special segment for you as well.
Thank you, Gail. It's great to be here. Absolutely.
We have to talk a little bit about your background.
Sure.
I mean, you started as supervisor in the town of Bellone in 2001,
Yeah.
and then 2012 you became our county executive.
Yeah.
And
I was 10 years as Bellone town supervisor, and we did a number of different things there to reform government, and then moving on to county government, much bigger. The Suffolk County government and Suffolk County is bigger than more than a dozen states. So it's a huge enterprise.
incredible. I know with veterans, we have the most veterans of anybody,
Most
and that's
veterans
why
of
we
any
could
county
be.
in the state, one of
Sure.
the most in the country.
But I want to get back to some of the things that you've been doing, because you came into a system where there was just so much debt. And you helped to eradicate that, the taxes,
Yep.
wine dance rising.
Yep.
You're one of the first with the green program for all of our buildings. And that's got to be an extraordinary amount, and veterans.
We very much focused on trying to do innovative things in government. So,
Right.
we recognize green building is very important as we're dealing with climate change. One of the things we can do is make our buildings greener. That's where a lot of the energy we use comes from.
Right.
And so we created an innovative program that was one of the leading programs in the country in the town of Bellone. We focused on reducing government and making it more efficient, because one of the big problems we're facing in our region is costs are too high. So if we're going to
Right.
keep homeowners here, and young people here particularly, we need to
I know
bend the
that's a
cost curve.
concern of
Big
yours.
concern of mine.
And quality of life.
Quality of life, I'm a big believer in investing in our parks, our open spaces. People want to live in communities with great parks and great public spaces.
Well, let's talk about veterans. I know that you are an Army veteran.
Yes.
And I also know that you're very involved in the Wounded Warriors. $500,000 has been raised. Tell me what your part in that is.
Well, we started when I was in town of Bellone as supervisor. We started to raise money for the Wounded Warrior Project, and I had put up a banner across town hall that
Yes, I
said,
saw
"Thank you to our
that.
veterans. God bless America." And we got attacked from a couple of different organizations that said, we don't want to see something like that displayed. God on a public building like that, and I can't really say what I told him on the phone, on the show, but suffice it to say, the banner's still there. We never took it down,
No.
and
that's since Iraq.
That was at
right?
the beginning
that
of
was in the very
Iraq
beginning
and
since Iraq.
Afghanistan.
Correct. I remember seeing that, and I'm glad that it's still there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we began raising money for our wounded warriors. And we've raised nearly, since it's continued since I left and became county executive, nearly $750,000. Supervisor Rich Schaefer has continued it.
And you also are helping in erecting statue for World War II for the town of Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't you take 3 busloads?
Yeah, actually,
veterans?
I had to come home a little bit early from my honeymoon to
See that? That's
fulfill
dedication.
fulfill. My wife came with me on the trip, fulfill a commitment I had made, because we helped raise money to build the National World War II Memorial,
Right.
and I took about 9 World War II veterans and one Rosie the Riveter, who had worked in the factories here in Babylon. And I made a commitment to them that once it was built, I would bring busloads of veterans down, and that's what we did. And it just happened to be around the time I got married that the dedication occurred.
That's just incredible.
And to come back early
when
from
you
Italy.
think back to Veterans Day, I mean, we're approaching it. That's another reason I wanted to cover this.
Yeah.
I just don't think that our veterans are getting not only the attention that they so deserve, but the homage.
Yeah.
They've done so much for us. And here we are, coming up to November 11th.
Yep.
The other day, I went to a park, and there were flags all over, and I heard a little boy ask his mother, why all the flags?
Right.
And she didn't know how to answer that. And I just said, hi,
Yeah.
started speaking, and we talked a little bit about it. And, this whole idea of Veterans Day, it started as Armistice Day, and then Eisenhower in 1954 declared it as Veterans Day.
Right.
People do mix it up with Memorial Day, although I want to give respect all over.
Yeah.
But this is a tribute to all of our armed forces.
What we have to make sure is that, we're not setting aside one day a year to honor veterans, but that we're honoring their service every day by doing what we're supposed to do, which is those of us who did not go overseas and leave their families and fight in war for our country, to make sure that they have what they need when they come home.
Absolutely.
That's our obligation.
Now, I share with you before the show started, I love the quote from legislator Stephen Stern, 17th District, who is so involved in this legislation.
Very much.
And I do have to say that quote once again because it resonated with me for days. Our soldiers who go off to the war to protect the ground that we walk on should not have to come home to sleep on that ground. I got chills when I heard that.
Exactly.
And he has come up with this incredible piece of legislation with 4 bills. What I'd like to ask you, County Executive, is why there is such a need for this. What has happened when our soldiers, many of our veterans, return?
Yeah, well, returning veterans, they've, been through a traumatic experience. They've been away from their families. Many have suffered physical injuries. Mental scars occur during war, and they come home, and there's not the kind of, for all the veterans, the kind of support services they need across the board to help them transition back to civilian life or to deal with the problems that have come up as a result of their service. And so there are really gaps there. And, we have veterans that have fallen through the cracks and veterans who have become homeless as a result.
Some are suffering from PTSD, and I know that you have the
Sure.
Joseph Dwyer program
peer-to-peer
in the
training
town of Bellone that
Yeah.
is to work with the families. I think that's another transitioning situation that we, always
Yeah.
need to address.
Yeah.
But absolutely right. So there are actually 4 parts. And one of the first things people are going to ask about is where did the $21 million come from? So I'd like you to address that and also where the properties are coming from.
Well, we have a number of aspects of the legislation, which is sponsored by legislator Steve Stern, as you mentioned, and who's been a real champion on this issue. And basically, the bills collectively together are Housing Our Homeless Heroes Act. And what it focuses on is the homeless veteran population in Suffolk County, with a determination that we'll become the first county in the state to end veterans' homelessness.
That's great.
Which is the least we should aspire to.
Oh, totally agree.
That our veterans coming home have a roof to sleep under. So the bills do a number of things. Number one, it requires that we do a real-time assessment now to determine what the level of
a
homelessness
census, in other words, or
exactly,
to find out
to get a
exactly,
real sense
get
of
the
what's
feel
going
of it.
on.
So that's one part of it.
Create it, and then to create a portal on the county website, SuffolkCountyNY.gov, where all of the agencies that can touch a veteran are there, so that those are available to them. Second part is basically to place a veteran service officer,
the
a
VSOs.
County, exactly,
Right.
county VSO.
Okay.
In the Department of Social Services, because a lot of our veterans coming home need some assistance and go into social services. They should have somebody they can relate to on a peer-to-peer basis,
Absolutely,
who
and maybe feel more
understands their
comfortable. They've been there, done that,
Exactly.
understand it. Because sometimes there's a reluctance to come back, and they're not always sure what they're feeling,
Yep.
and somebody will understand it.
Yep.
And then the last part, is that the Liberty Village? Is
Well,
that
we have
part of it?
that's part of it. Where we recently opened up a housing development in North Amityville that is
60
dedicated to
homes,
veterans who
right.
were homeless, and it's there to house them. But we have, as part of the Housing Our Homeless Heroes Act, a bill that would allow county surplus property and homes to be turned over to not-for-profit agencies that would then fix them up and allow homeless veterans then to occupy those homes.
So that's a win-win situation. We're helping our veterans, we're paying homage, but in addition to that, we're not looking at abandoned houses in the area.
No question. You think about the housing crisis we went through, how many homes, became blighted and fell into
Absolutely.
disrepair. Let's use those homes to help
Oh,
veterans.
totally. That's great. So this could really become a program, not only just putting Suffolk again on the map,
Yes.
but also using it as an initiative throughout the country.
Right.
Yeah. Now we have another 30 homes that are coming up in Ronkonkoma, I understand, and by 2015, this is going to take place, all of it?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of other developments happening, and we're hoping to take those houses that we have and be able to have not-for-profit agencies running them and housing our homeless
Oh,
vets.
this is just terrific.
Yeah.
Now the web portal too, I had a few people who had questioned that. They said, where will the power come from that? Where will the means come from it? We already have people in place for that, do we not?
That's the thing. We have a number of agencies that are working, in these areas that are
Right.
doing housing, that are doing veterans issues. What we're trying to do is, and what Legislator Stern is trying to do with these bills,
Right.
is to pull these agencies together, working across agency lines, governmental lines, in a comprehensive fashion, so that we're utilizing those dollars as effectively as possible to get the services to the people that need them.
I think it's just extraordinary. I know that there are also, and you are also involved in tax relief, education, higher education for our veterans.
Absolutely.
Make sure that they get the help that they need. Where can somebody reach you, and why should they reach you?
It's an umbrella of services,
Okay.
because you have different needs for different veterans. It
Different
may be job
circumstances.
training, education,
Excellent.
skills, housing,
And their families
some
as
social
well, am I
services.
correct?
You're right. There may
Yeah.
be some, substance abuse issues. There
Right.
can be a whole series of different
It's
things.
individualized, so that you have a whole
Individualized.
umbrella of all of that. So now where
Exactly.
can somebody's
So the best thing
watching
would
the
be to
show.
go to the website, SuffolkCountyNY.gov, and that's where all of that veterans information will be put together so people can access it very
You have
easily.
Hauppauge, you have Riverhead.
We have the county center in Hauppauge, the county center in Riverhead. We have county operations in Yaphank as well. So it's a big county. Geographically, it's a huge
Oh, it
county.
is.
I always say you can easily fit Brooklyn, Queens, and Nassau into Suffolk County.
I think we
so
have.
It's a big place. Yeah, yes.
We
So
have 750 to 1,000 veterans at the moment,
Yeah.
correct? Is that pretty
that's
much
what
it?
the estimate is right now, but we want to make sure that we get a better sense of that number.
Well, I want to thank you so much. Is there any
Thank
final
you,
word you'd like to say, or did we pretty much cover it?
Well, just thank you for what you're doing here and
Oh,
promoting
my
this issue. It's
pleasure.
really important.
And I want to thank
Thanks,
you
Gail.
so much.
Thank you.
And next up is going to be Kelsey. Coan, who's going to talk about what this means to her. Welcome back to Looking to Make a Difference with GAIL. Kelsey, Coan, I am so excited you're here today. You are delightful. But first I want to tell the audience just a little bit about you, if I may.
Okay.
The fact that 17, you are a singer, you're a songwriter, you're going to share your own song, you're an actress, you've been involved in dance. That in itself is just amazing. But what's even more amazing to me, and actually what touched my heart, is the fact that you're doing so much good for other people and serving as a role model for other kids your age. And I can't get over that. You came all the way in from New Jersey, close to Philadelphia.
Yep.
What was that ride like?
Oh my gosh. I'm really bad with staying in a small space for a long time.
That.
So I was like all jittery. I was like, oh my gosh. The second we stopped, I was like, yay. I ran out of the car. You should have seen me.
Well, let's talk a little bit first before we get into your song.
Okay.
It's a beautiful song. The fact that you co-wrote this
Yes.
with someone else, and we want to give props to that person as well. But let's talk a little bit about it. I mean, singing, acting, how did this all start?
Well, when I was younger, I wanted to be in a show choir, and I used to go see them all the time, mostly at festivals, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be in that one day. So I actually got into it. It was a middle school one and then a high school one, and it was just amazing. It made me want to move on and do something solo. And
That's so brave too, right?
Yeah.
But you had to have a great voice. Where does that come from?
I really
Nobody
have no
sings
idea.
in your family? No one's musical?
Nope.
All right, so now let's talk about something to stand for. I love the title. Tell me the other person who helped you to co-write this.
Well, the other person, his name is Chuck Thomas. He's in
Okay.
Nashville, and we actually Skyped to co-write, and it was fun. It was hard,
fun.
but it was the very first song I ever co-written, and it was just amazing. Like, I couldn't believe it. In the very beginning, he did most of the writing, and but then once we got to the end, I was like, okay, can we change this? This sounds better.
Oh, you started to get into it. You started
Yeah.
to feel it and the words. What line is most impactful for you?
Well, the chorus, definitely. I think that
And
is
that
a very
is?
impactful
What are the words to that?
foundation that we stand on. Land of the free, red, white, and blue.
Right.
Trusting God in our faith.
So all about America and
Yes.
veterans. And that leads me to the next question. Tell me about your inspiration.
My inspiration was my grandfather, Fred Fossbender, and he served in the Vietnam War from 1968 to 1969, and he told me all about all the experiences that he went through while he was there, and a lot of them were really traumatic. And he told me how someone died right in front of him, and it was very hard, and just to hear it and see the pain and all of it
You
coming back to him.
empathized, you felt for that, you
Yeah.
understood it. Amazing. So you have a special rapport with Grandpa?
I only met him, like, as I got older.
Okay.
A couple years ago. I think it was 2 years ago.
Is that right?
And we actually started getting closer.
Oh,
And I talk to him on the phone all the
beautiful.
time. He lives in Baltimore.
Oh.
And he actually, the first time he heard the song, we emailed it to him. And I was on the phone. I was like, wait, open it. And then he did. And he was like, I was like, are you listening? He's like, yeah. And
Oh, Kelsey, I love this. That's beautiful.
And then after it was done, you can hear he started tearing up. And the first time he heard it live, I sang it at the county fair, and you can see the smile on his face. Every time I go perform it anywhere, I dedicate
You
it.
get emotional. That's beautiful. You know, I'm a grandparent, and I understand, you know, the role that grandparents have, and to have a granddaughter who's inspired enough to do this. You see that, camera? I'd like to say a word to you, Grandpa.
Thank you so much, Pappy, for everything that you did, and I'm so happy you're in my life.
Oh.
And thank you for the Bronze Star Medal that you gave to me that day that I did the live performance. And oh my gosh, I can't wait to see you again.
Oh, Kelsey, that is just so beautiful. I'm getting emotional, but tell me, what can we what can you and young people do about this whole situation we want to honor our veterans more. You've written a song. What are some things other kids can do that perhaps can't sing or write their own music?
I mean, whatever. My biggest thing is when I'm performing, I dedicate it to all of them, like all the veterans that served past and present, and my grandfather. I was actually at a show, and there was a veteran there, and he came and stood up front. He started crying. So I came up to him, and we hugged, and I thanked him for everything. And, you know, just going up to any veteran that you know or that you meet on the streets, just thank them for what they did, because they risked their lives to help us and give us freedom. So I think just saying thank you is
and traveling all this way in order to do this is just beyond words for me. You know, it makes me very emotional to know a young person like yourself. And I know you're coming back in the second half to talk about special needs with bullying and another original song. Why don't you set this up? We're going to see the video now and hear you actually performing. So say a couple of words and then we'll go to the video.
This video is of a song that I co-wrote, and it's called Something to Stand For. It is dedicated to all veterans who served past and present, and also to my grandfather who served in the Vietnam War.
My daddy received a call from the high school principal. Your little girl's done wrong. What she did surprised us all. She stood up tall and proud with a hand over her heart. Said the Pledge of Allegiance, we don't do that anymore. That's something to stand for. Foundation this country was built on. Trust in your faith as God trusts in you. That's something to stand for. My granddad served in a foreign land. He fought for our freedom, came home a different man. Now I've grown up, it's my graduation day. Handed him my diploma, he turned to me to say, that's something to stand for. Foundation this country was built on. Just trust in your faith as God trusts in you. That's something to stand for. When you've given your all, give a little more. Open your heart, it's worth fighting for. That's something to stand for. Foundation this country was built on. Land of the free, red, white, and blue. Just trust in your faith as God trusts in you. That's something to stand for.
I'm back, and look who I have with me. I have legislator Sarah Anker from the 6th District in Long Island, and I tell you, this has been quite a show. We have been talking about, in the first part of the show, all about veterans. And I know your grandfather was disabled naval veteran?
Actually my father.
Your
my
father was,
Yes,
right,
yes, Navy
right.
disabled veteran.
Yeah.
He's fine, but he served in the Navy, and I grew up, actually I was born on a Navy base in New Orleans, Louisiana. And that experience really taught how important it is to appreciate our country and appreciate the men and women in our military.
And that's what we want to emphasize today, but you're actually here for a different cause.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I also want to mention that I know that your grandmother did succumb
to breast cancer.
And
yes.
You know that I'm a breast cancer
Yes.
thriver and
Yes.
speaker.
Thank you.
And it's still, we're coming after the month of October,
Right.
but we know that that should be all year long, not just the month of October.
Right.
What I wanted to say about that, though, and Legislator Anker, I have to first of all thank you for coming here, is that you're the type of person that, in your third term, you talk about these different causes. But what I love about you is you jump right in and you're involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the more I'm reading about you, the more impressed I'm becoming. And I would like everyone to know about that, not just on Long Island, throughout.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for that. I know that you are involved in other issues as well, but as a former educator, tell me a little bit about SAVE, because that's significant too.
The SAVE hotline.
Yes, yeah.
A school active violence emergency hotline. That basically, it's a panic button for school districts. It's a direct line to our 911 operating department, and it brings the highest priority for our schools if there's an incident of active violence, a shooter or some horrific incident. And this came about with a discussion with my staff, and we sit next to a bank, and one of my staff members mentioned after Sandy Hook, the incident.
Of course.
Do schools have higher priority with 911? And I assumed yes, they do. Yes, of course they do. And I called up my superintendent in Mount Sinai, and I asked him, and he goes, well, no, we don't have any direct access. And I said, I'll get back with you. And so I met with our Suffolk County Police Department, the 911 Center, and we created through our information technology and their technology department a direct line, direct access for school districts to have to 911.
And that's what I mean about you. I know that you're a chair of technology,
Yes.
education, and you care so much about our children. So let's address the issue at hand today. I want to get into cyberbullying and bullying with you. Many times when we're involved in issues, it's because we ourselves have been involved or we have witnessed it. Your experience with bullying?
My experience with bullying is I was bullied as a teenager. I actually was probably in junior high, middle school. And, when I was in school in the 70s and 80s, it was physical bullying. It was they would come up to you, they would talk to you, maybe verbal bullying. But now it's cyberbullying. And what's frustrating is that parents and teachers don't have access or don't understand with the technology we have as much as some of our kids. So we need to get the information out there, and Suffolk County is working hard to making sure that there are resources for our students, our parents, and our teachers.
And our community, actually. I think the more that we all get involved, the more that we speak about it, the more we can help. And it's SuffolkStopBullying.org.
Correct.
So we want to get that out there, and we want to talk about some of this. But just recently, we saw a lot in the news about Yik Yak.
Right.
And when I'd first written to you and I wanted you to come on the show, I said, I don't really know that app, Yik Yak.
And honestly, I didn't know very much about it. What had happened in Mount Sinai, a 15-year-old young man had gone into the app and put, I'm going to blow up your school and shoot people.
Gosh.
And of course, we don't take those threats lightly.
Of course not.
And we had our Suffolk County Police jump on that issue right away within hours. We were able to locate that individual, and what happens is the kids don't realize that they're not anonymous, that they can be tracked down through GPS and other technologies. But there's an issue with bullying in our school districts related to these apps, and it's very unfortunate because words can hurt. You know, they used to say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never
no,
hurt.
that's not
It's
the
not
case.
true anymore, not with this generation.
No, it's psychological, emotional, intellectual bullying. There's so many types. I want to get back to the ICAC because I did a little research on it. And actually the creators really did it to help teens get involved in selecting colleges. And what I found that, and of course the schools are saying you cannot have this in the schools, and rightly so. But I understand that with the 200 letters that they're allowed to use, it actually extends 1.5 miles outside the school, and that there was anonymity for users. Is that correct?
To some extent, but because this became a law enforcement issue in Mount Sinai, they were able to track down outside of the school.
So now, I see.
But what some technology companies provide are geofences, and that creates a barrier. And so schools are starting to use that as a form of security for some of these applications. But still, you know, the parents need to be aware. They need to monitor the child's phone or computer.
We have filtering techniques.
Right.
You know, I found that is so true.
We have to provide those parameters and those safety zones. Kids will push limits.
Right.
They want to see how much can we get away with, and that starts when they're young, when they're babies. And we encourage our kids to get out there and do more and be competitive and be ambitious. And they are doing that. But the world of our technology is expanding so rapidly that it is hard for
They know more
parents
than
to
we
keep
do.
up.
I have to go to my 6-year-old grandson.
Yes. Yeah.
We joke about it, but it's the truth. There's no fear there. They're learning so much and being so bombarded. So I think that's something to be said. Let's go back to your website. How does it help the kids?
So one of the most important parts of SuffolkStopBullying.org is that it lists the Dignity Act coordinators. Now, these folks from our schools, they are assigned by the school district. They are the to-go person for anyone being bullied in any school district in New York State. So Suffolk County, through the Information Technology Department, we created a list of every single school in Suffolk County and the person to contact and their phone number and their email address. So if there's kids out there, parents or teachers that have some issues within their school district related to bullying,
go to this.
They can go to the website.
Find out.
Right. And in addition to there's a button for suicide prevention. There's a button for resources, and I have to also give my thanks to County Executive Steve Bellone in supporting the Department of Health Services. I was recently at a peer-to-peer education program, and this was produced by our health department, and I have to give a special shout out to John Martin, who helped facilitate this, and an employee in Suffolk County. And basically it's a program, and I have the book here. I'm gonna pop it up real quick. This is the book. So if you are a teacher and or in a school district and you want to learn, absolutely. If you want to learn how to stop, to help reduce the bullying and help stop bullying, basically peer-to-peer. So what is that about? It teaches the high school kids how to communicate with younger kids. So those younger kids have people to look up to.
Role models.
Exactly.
Which is what parents should be for their children.
Absolutely.
Which teachers have to be for the children in the class. Because I really think, Legislator Anker, that we can say it's really our actions and when they emulate what they're seeing.
Yes.
I really think that is really the case.
Right.
But you said law enforcement is now involved. We have to have, I'd like to review a little bit of this, parental control. We have the schools involved. We have this wonderful book, and people can have access to it.
Absolutely. And it's mainly, for teachers and educators who are trying to teach the kids how to act, like you said, role models. Another very important part to this website, we have a music video clip contest. Now it's.
I was going to ask you about that, right? I'm excited.
Yes.
I want to hear all about this.
So we're trying to create excitement within the student population. We want kids to go to the website, and whether they're going to use it at this moment in time, or maybe in a month or a year or two from now, they'll say, "Wait a minute, I'm being bullied, or my friend's being bullied. That's right. I remember seeing the program,
Right,
you know,
right.
on Gail's show here today,
Right.
perhaps. And
I
I'm
hope
gonna,
so. I really do.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I know in the next segment, I'm going to be talking about the person who's bullied, the person who does the bullying, and the person who watches it.
Oh,
And the other
yes.
thing that's very important is
yeah.
that, and I found this in my research, no one just takes that one role. That
Right,
role
right.
is constantly changing. So we want to get all of it out there. You want to say something?
And that's exactly
Yeah.
what this peer-to-peer education program
Love
does.
it.
The key word, it's called an upstander. Instead of a bystander, someone who
Right.
sits and watches and says, I really can't deal with this, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
can't get involved. An upstander is someone who's brave and able to get involved, or at least not promote the bullying issue. And that's something we really need to encourage
you
our
have
kids.
4 types of
Yeah.
people who watch the bullying, which I'm going to get into the next segment. But I will say this since you brought it up. In 60% of all cases, that bullying will stop within 10 seconds if someone gets involved.
Wow. Well,
And that to me is amazing.
It is.
But we want to show that in the next segment, how we can do that, what we can do
Right.
in the community, educators, parents, teachers.
Right, exactly. 160,000 children in the U.S.
Right,
every day
right.
miss school because they're being bullied.
being bullied,
And it's a
right.
horrible experience. You know, we as an adults, when I was talking to the crowd the other day, we have neighborhood watches. We have our police. We have ways and resources to protect us and help us
Right.
feel safe and secure. When you're a child, you're pretty much left on your own, except for the teachers and parents. And if they're not going to help, or maybe the student doesn't feel that they're there to provide help,
Right.
where do you turn to?
Where do you turn to?
Right.
You feel isolated, alone, and this contributes to it. I want to thank you so much.
You are so
You've given
welcome.
us so much information. And again, your website. So if somebody would like to, would you repeat
Thank
the
you.
website?
Okay,
one more
that's
time?
SuffolkStopBullying.org. And I just wanted to mention real quick, we have Mike Del Judas from Big Shot. He plays with Billy Joel. And we also have Anthony Magoya from Patent Pending.
Okay.
Danny Rivera. They will be our 3 judges to judge our music clip video. And this video, 1 minute, will go on the website as you open it up, and you'll see it. And we want to bring the kids, bring ages 13 to 18 who can participate in this contest, bring them to the website. Let them
I
know
love
it's
that.
there. It's there to help them. And I really appreciate what you're doing, helping people and
thank
really
you.
making a difference. It's just wonderful.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
very
you
welcome.
so much. We'll be right back because I'm going to be speaking with Dean Dobbins, and we're going to talk about all of these issues. And then I'm going to bring Kelsey Coan back with her original song about special needs children and how they're often overlooked in the bullying. Thank you. I am so excited to be here now with Dean Dobbins. I think you've heard part of what the show has been about. We started with veterans. We're talking about bullying because it's that time of the year. And I love this book, Stop Bullying Today, a story about a boy's courage. Dean Dobbins, welcome
Thank you,
to the
Gail.
show.
It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you for being here. Let's talk a little bit about you, shall we?
Sure.
You're an entrepreneur. You're an actor. You are a producer. You're about to have your book made into a documentary, so I know
Yes.
you have a lot to say in that. You're also a businessman, a motivational speaker, and you have an 8th degree belt in karate and own a school.
Yes, I have an 8th degree black belt in karate.
Did I
and-
leave anything out?
No,
My
no.
goodness, that's extraordinary. And I know that you're here today because you feel so very passionate about bullying.
Yes, I do.
So we want to get as much info as we can. So let's get into what are some of the signs that a parent should definitely look for?
Well, I have 2 boys,
Right.
13 and 11. And my son was bullied at the age of 7 years old,
Okay.
the older one. And we noticed he was very quiet. And he's like that. He likes to talk. And he was very,
So
very
it's
quiet.
change in personality.
Personality was
Got it,
one.
got it.
His grades were okay, but he didn't want to go to school the next day after he was bullied.
Not wanting to go
And
to
that was
school.
another sign.
Right.
But when it comes to the teens, they don't go to school, grades are failing, weight loss, depression,
Sleep,
headache,
no
stomach
sleep,
aches. There's so many different
Could
areas.
not sleep or maybe even go to sleep.
Right. Some want to sleep all day, some
Hide
don't want to
home,
sleep
hide.
at all. Yes.
Right,
and
right.
these are signs. But what we have to do as parents, we call it a round table at our house.
Okay.
Once a week, we check in with our kids. How's school? How's things? Anybody been bothering you?
Have you been bullied? If you are, Daddy's going to take care of it, because that's what I do. But on the flip side of it, we have to monitor them too. We have to decide what they're going through, why they're going through it. And as parents, we really have to take that extra step and understand they're children still.
Many times, and we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, kids don't want to tell the parents because they don't want them to get involved. They want to take care of it themselves. They want to address it. They want to get their esteem back. So we're going to talk about that. Let's talk about some of the signs about your kids, and this is difficult, who might be doing the bullying. And as I mentioned with Legislator Anker, we find that kids take different roles from time to time. They may be the one witnessing it, maybe the one bullying. And I don't like to label bullied, because I like to say it's the act that's being done.
Right.
I think when we tend to label people, they start to live up to that expectation. So what are some of the signs that parents should look for, and they adore their kids, that they might be the ones doing the bullying?
I was doing a lecture a few weeks ago, and somebody said, so who is a bully? Is it a person who is at a home from a broken home, divorced parents? Or is it a person that's in a very wealthy family? A bully could be anybody.
Anybody.
I use the analogy of a bully as you have that little lamb, and you have a lot of wolves. But that one wolf wants to get the little lamb, but he's pushed on by the other wolves. And I always use that.
Right.
But who is a bully? We have to find out. And you can tell the bully because he's pushed on by other bullies.
Correct. It's a cycle.
Oh,
So it's
definitely
a
a cycle.
continual cycle. We also many times have parents who are working 2 jobs, mothers and fathers. They don't have dinner together. They don't have the time together. And that's where the school has to step up, where the community has to get involved.
Oh, I agree 100%. Teachers have to know what's going on in their classroom. If a teacher doesn't take control of a situation, then they're not doing their job. Especially, it goes to the principal. So they have to be aware of the surroundings.
Right.
They have to be aware of a bully. It just happened recently to my son, my younger son. New kid in a new school.
And here you are, and
Yeah.
you're speaking about
Oh, yeah.
it.
And I have no issue because we handled it very quickly. New school.
Right.
My son's a new boy, and he didn't know any of the students. And this one boy said to him, I'm going to be your best friend. You're going to sit next to me at lunch. But guess what happened to my son? He started making friends. What did that boy do? He turned on him very quickly.
Right.
And what he did was, and I take it very serious, he said he was coming the next day, and he goes, I'm going to shoot you. And I took that very serious.
my God.
And I went to the principal, they nipped it in the butt, it's squashed. And these boys are 11 years old. So it's happening
Gosh.
all over.
It's happening with boys. You know, many times, and I was told this from other people, that girls get picked on even more
Yes.
so.
Yes, they do.
Talked about cyberbullying, and a lot of time it's very difficult. Let's talk a little bit why kids don't speak up. What are some of the reasons? We know a couple, but what are some others?
Some of them are in school, they're scared they're going to get in trouble. They think they're doing something wrong. Because that bully's really pushing them to say, hey, I'm the victim. And you're the target.
Right.
That's one way. They're scared of getting in trouble with their parents.
Right.
You know, some parents are old-fashioned. They're not going to believe. They might not believe them. So that's another way. But as a parent of 2 beautiful boys, my wife and I always, like I said, we sit down with them. We educate them on what's going on
And
out
that's
there.
the key. I
Yes.
think you're saying educate, to talk. Who is at risk for being bullied? I think that in addition to anyone being different, perhaps it's anyone that's perceived as being weak and can't defend himself.
Yes.
I'm using himself grammatically correct, but himself, herself.
Yes.
Who else?
Bullies always target somebody, like you said, somebody that's weak. I was doing a lecture a couple of months ago, and a little girl got up and she goes, can somebody bully you on the color of your skin? And I said to her, and she was just about 11 years old, 12 years old. I said, that's a great question, and I'm going to get back to you on that. I spoke to her about it, and she told me. And that's another thing. There's so much racism out there. I say we all have to get along. We all have to find a medium to get along. But a bully targets somebody that's very weak.
Well, low self-esteem.
Yes.
And how about the person, and this is what I saw in the classroom, and I was very quick to address it, even on the level from 9th through 12th grade. I did see the child who's looking for attention. Suddenly that child became the scapegoat, and that was the way to get attention, and then it wasn't funny anymore.
Right. Oh,
So
you're
I
absolutely
saw
right.
that as well. What I thought was interesting, though, too, is who is at risk to do the bullying. And I found that there were two types of children who fell into that. Would you like to address that?
I think jocks, we call them the jocks, you know, the most popular guy.
The most popular kids, okay.
Those kids, boy or girl, that definitely could be a bully.
Isn't that
If,
something?
or they could be the victim, depends.
Or Mean Girls.
Right.
Remember the movie
Yeah,
Mean
oh,
Girls?
yeah, Mean Girls. I
So
mean-
what you're saying is it could be one type would be the one that's most popular that you don't ordinarily would think
Right.
that that person would be a bully.
But
Very
on
dominant.
on the other side,
Yeah.
the one is very, very quiet.
Quiet, right.
Very quiet. To themselves, they don't talk too much, they don't say a word.
Let's talk about then the kids who witness bullies. There are 4 types of kids who do that.
In my book,
Mm-hmm.
right, there was 4 kids that witnessed me being bullied.
Right.
So Paul is me. So I just gave that away,
Right,
but
right.
Paul is me, right? They witnessed me getting bullied. And you know what they
Right.
did? They walked away because they were afraid they were going to get bullied.
Correct.
So after I got hit, knocked out, and kicked in the ear, and I have 10% hearing
And you
loss,
lost hearing. Yes, yes.
those boys walked away from me, and they were supposed to be my friends. And to this day, I say, why did they walk
still
away?
hurts you.
Of course, why did they walk
It's-
away?
Well, what I did find is with the kids that didn't want to get involved, some of them are traumatized.
Oh, yeah.
They They
yeah.
don't know what to do.
They are petrified. And I always tell, and when I teach martial arts, and I always tell my students,
Mm-hmm.
if one of your other martial art companion, or whatever we call them,
Yes,
classmates,
yes.
I always say to them, if they're into a situation and you're at the park,
Right.
you, by your right, as a martial artist, have to help them. If you like them or not, you have to help them.
You have to do
Because people have to step in. I do this all the time. When I'm at the park and I see 2 kids fighting, I get in between them.
it. Let's talk about your book, because I
Sure.
really loved it. I know it's about a 12-year-old, and it's aimed for what age? Would you say the same age?
6th grade up.
6th grade up.
Yes.
Very quickly, your son's reactions to the book.
They read it and they loved it.
They loved it.
Yeah, they loved the book. They wanted to know who Paul was right away, and I gave it to them. You know, that's me. You know, but they loved the
Yeah,
book.
we don't want to ruin the ending,
Yeah.
but we do want to talk about it. I'll tell you what stayed with me that was very powerful. I saw each character as representing a different facet of bullying, being bullied, outside it, watching it.
Yes.
For example, we take somebody like Paul. He wants his parents to have a baby brother. He wants to play ball. He's got a crush on a girl that's really cute.
Right.
So he represents that one group, coming in, excited. It's the last day of school. And then you have someone like Mark, who was a little bit of a surprise to me because I didn't see the most popular guy
Right.
as being a person who would bully.
Right.
Then you had the girlfriend who kind of egged him on and was excited that he was getting into all this. Then you had the friends. Let's talk a little bit about the principal.
Sure.
When Mark knocks the books out of Paul's hand and the principal walks over and he says, just pick them up and let's go.
Right.
Tell me about that.
That took me. It was very hard for me to even be there with that principal that day because he just said, it's nothing. Because you have to understand, the book is written in the 1970s,
Right,
not
right,
today.
right.
So back
Got
then,
it,
there
got
was
it.
bullying, but
Of
there was more
course.
harassment, and we called fights back
More
then.
physical
Yeah.
as opposed to.
Yeah, so they weren't educated more on the bully, but
Right,
he
right.
was a bully. I mean, he was a tormentor.
And cyberbullying actually is 10%.
Yes.
So even though we're saying so much about cyberbullying, that 10% is so significant, we're not taking that away. There still is a lot of the harassment and a lot of the physical. So going back to 1970 or today, that still reeks true.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Right, right.
So when that principal did nothing,
Oh,
I came.
hurt.
I remember going to my mom. I said, "The principal did nothing." She goes, "Well, I'm going to go talk to him tomorrow." And my mother, tough Sicilian, she went and talked to him. She had no problem dealing with
She
him.
came right
Yeah,
in.
right in there. Mom does it.
Now, this is going to be made into a documentary. How exciting for you. And I hope that you're going to stay here because Kelsey Coan is now going to talk about her experiences. She's going to talk about her brother with special needs and another original song about bullying.
Great. I'm
So
excited.
I hope you will. I want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
Thank you.
What a show. And Kelsey Coan, welcome back.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the first song that you did, and I'm excited about what you're doing today. But first, I want to talk a little bit with you about bullying, and we're talking about your particular case. What happened to you, and then kids with special needs?
Well, when I was in middle school, I didn't wear makeup. My hair wasn't perfect. I wore baggy clothes because I was insecure about my weight.
Okay.
So, and I was very shy. I was to myself a lot, and everybody preyed on it. I didn't have many friends, and the ones that I did kind of turned on me, and there was a lot of, it was rough.
Now, you heard a little bit today. Did anything resonate with you?
I mean, just seeing how many people are actually trying to help now with
Good.
hotlines and all
Love
this
that.
stuff that can help.
Oh, I'm so
I think
glad.
it's
I'm
amazing.
thrilled with that. Now, we haven't really talked about children with special needs. And I had asked you before the show started, I'm curious because you are such a kind soul who wants to give back to others. And I asked you, where did this come from? Share with that.
Well, mostly from my brother who has epilepsy, uncontrolled seizures. Just seeing how some people would look at him. He's in a wheelchair right now because he has drop seizures. And he fell multiple times in stores when, you turn your back for a second. And so people just stare at him, and I'm like, he has a problem. I know you might be curious about it,
Right.
but I think that's rude sometimes.
Right.
Especially when you hear all this stuff on the news now about how kids with special needs are being bullied. I mean, it's horrible. And then,
Well, I know in education that I've had students with special needs, and we've had special assemblies. And what do you think of that? Where the principal would actually address the whole group of teachers, and what could we do to help so that we could explain to our students? How do you feel about that?
I think that's awesome.
So education. And before we listen to this beautiful song that I just adore, I want to mention too that there are other types of things that kids are bullying that they're not even aware of. Give an example. I was talking to Legislator Anker, and I was saying my grandson has a peanut allergy. She was saying her child does too. Sometimes we don't even realize it. Kids get silly, they throw things. Now, throwing that peanut in that child's face or around the area could even cause death. So we have to be so careful, so tolerant, and so understanding of what we are, who we are, and all the differences that we are. Would you agree?
Definitely.
So why don't you set up this beautiful song, I Heart Me. Tell us a little bit about it so that we can hear it, and then I'll have final words from our wonderful guests.
Well, this song was written by a songwriter. His name is Danny Richardson III. It was written based off experiences that I went through in middle school. And
So he wrote it for you?
yes.
Okay.
And I dedicate it to everyone who's been bullied or has special needs. And just, I like to tell everyone before I sing it live that don't let other people judge you for who you are. Just be yourself and be happy. Don't let others bring you down.
I love it. Let's hear that song.
I'm not the girl who's dating the captain of the football team. But I'm okay with that. I'm not the girl who's so obsessed with being homecoming queen. And I'm okay with that. You say that I'm not this and I'm not that. And you say that I'm too thin or I'm too fat. Whatever you think of me will never define me. I for life. I No, it really doesn't matter what you say. If you don't like me, just walk away. 'Cause I bleed for life. I bleed for life. I bleed for life. No, it really doesn't matter what you say. If you don't like me, just walk away. 'Cause I bleed for life. I hurt me, and I'm okay with that.
Legislator Anker, final word for today's show?
I just want to thank you and our guests here today for doing everything they are doing with the bullying issue. We all have to work together. Everybody has a role, a special role, and if we can get the word out there, we're going to have a much better place to live and a wonderful world to be part of. So again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And a final word from you before we go to Dean Dobbins?
I am so grateful to be here and be able to share my
pleasure.
message and meeting all these great people and hearing their sides of bullying. And yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Delightful. Dean Dobbins.
Gail, it's been a pleasure, and
Thank
you guys,
you.
you're an inspiration in my life. Like, I'm with everybody else out there, but we have to. I'm only one person,
Right.
and we have to take control over bullying in our communities. So I'm one of many, and I know we all could do it. And my little boy always says, "Stop bullying today."
Oh, I think that's great. Thank you all so much. And I hope that we are looking to make a difference and that we have. Until next time, bye.